Bienvenidos. Muchas gracias. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. We appreciate you being here today. Welcome to CCD75's Safety Committee presentation on school safety. I am Aisha Husbands. I am the chairperson for the Safety Committee. We are joined by committee members Joanne Jones and Christy Angel and our co-president, Amy Tsai. Now, Ms. Joanne Jones will introduce our presenters for the day. Ms. Jones.
Good morning, everyone. Excuse me. Happy Wednesday, happy hump day. So as Aisha stated, will be introducing our presenters. So first we have is Miss Mary Mason Simpson. She is the Borough Safety Director, Office of Safety and Suspensions for District 70 Citywide Council. NYPD, SSD Community Affairs, BXE Command is Suzanne Catiego. Excuse me if I'm pronouncing that wrong. NYPD Detective Felicia Richards and Police Officer Austin, PSA number 2, Community Affairs. Just please note, we will have a Q&A session after each presentation. Please, we ask that you raise your hand or put your questions in the chat. So without further ado, I will gladly and gratefully and humbly introduce Miss Mary Mason Simpson.
Good morning. I'm just trying to see if I can come. Thank you. Okay, good morning, everyone. My name is Mary Mason Simpson. I apologize, I'm between two meetings. The superintendent is also having a Bronx principal meeting today, so I am inside the school and I have been provided with some space so that we can have a conversation. With that said, my title is actually, I'm the Borough Safety Director for District 75 Citywide Programs. There are a total of 12 Borough Safety Directors, 10 that are responsible for specific Bronx and Queens and Brooklyn and all the 5 boroughs, and 2, myself and District 79, we are citywide. So we're responsible for all our schools within our districts citywide throughout the entire city. And so we work in collaboration with the Borough Safety Directors from the Chancellor's Office of Safety and Prevention and Partnership. That's the new title. It used to be known as the Office of Safety and Youth Development. And so we work collaboratively together to ensure that the safety and the wellness of all our schools and students and staff as well. So I was, myself and the other presenters, we were provided with a list of concerns and questions that I know I would definitely love to be able to provide you with feedback on. And then thereafter, whatever questions that you have for me, we can go from there. So one of the questions was regarding de-escalation and training, and how is that, for special needs students, for District 75 at large. And so to give you some background on that, the Office of the Chancellor's Office of Safety and Prevention and Partnership does have a director of crisis for every single school, and that director name is Mary Shannon. So, so that means that all of the schools throughout New York City are responsible for ensuring that all staff are trained in therapeutic crisis intervention or have some sort of formalized training, and it meets the Chancellor's Regulation A411. The Chancellor's Regulation on A411 on behavior and crisis, this has to do with de-escalation and so forth. It really was birthed after many lawsuits. What was schools were having a high number of 911 calls for students that were in crisis, and the students were either being transported to the hospital, or they were even getting arrested because of the property damage and things of that sort. So there was a lot, and the parents, raised these issues and concerns because, every time there is a 911 call, it is very expensive. And also there needs to be some proper guidance and protocol as to what really constitutes, a student in crisis, but also notifying the parent, because perhaps the parent might say, I don't want my child to be next to the hospital, but instead I will come and pick my student up and so forth. So these guidelines was birthed, and so it meant that all city schools are now responsible for complying to the 411 de-escalation and crisis plan, and the staff are trained. So with that, District 75 have their own department, and within that department is the Office of PPIS, and there are trained facilitators through Cornell University that have trained these facilitators to be trained the trainers. So they actually train the New York City staff along with the central office, and provide the training for all schools within District 75, but also train the trainers training so that select individuals within the D75 schools can also train their staff. So I happen to be in a school today that is understanding the child, know what the child needs, being able to help the student help themselves. So the goal, so that we're not having students in to the hospital and then the students be able to pull so that they're able.
Ms. Mason, I'm sorry, you're cutting out. Can you just repeat the last thing you said? Ms. Mason, Ms. Mary Mason, you're unmuted.
Can you all hear me now?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
I wonder how that happened. This modern technology. So what I did say, and I'm not sure how much you missed, the central office collects data.
Sorry, one more thing. Your camera is not on. If you want to put it on, just to let you know.
Oh, I knocked it off because it was starting to show me other things, and I'm not that technical. Okay. So I thought that and I want to make sure that you can all hear the message, but I can definitely put it back on. But I was worried that I started seeing things that, that I wasn't sure if I was supposed to see. So, so the central office collects data on a monthly basis and disseminates that out. My office receives the data where we're taking a a very deep dive into how effective are the trainings. We're looking at, when the data comes my way, I'm looking very closely at the high number of 911 calls. And then we're looking at the schools that have received the training. We're looking at, and I'm doing this look with the superintendent's office at the cabinet, with the liaisons, with, and the liaison, in case that's new to someone, within 75, we have borough liaisons who go out and from the superintendent's office and to support the schools with whatever situation that might be, coming up and on a rise. So in addition to my office providing safety related support, the liaisons support them with whatever. It could be instructional, it could be safety, it could be whatever that need is, and we all working collaboratively together. So we take a look at that data and see the effectiveness of the training. Do we need to send coaches from the Office of PBIS to be able to support the schools? Do we see certain staff members that might need refreshers and so forth? And so right now, the Office of PBIS have ongoing trainings to provide either refreshers and or enhancements to schools that might be in need of the training and so forth. And the training, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, it comes out of Cornell University, and there's a wide range. So it's not just providing them just with therapeutic crisis, but it's also co-regulation. It might be, it has like a whole list of various different deep dive strategies that the schools might need to better be able to perfect and be able to support the student. And so I did reach out to the Office of PBIS and the coordinators there, and they will be more than willing to, meet with, the parents and be able to give you an overview of what they do as far as District 75 in providing de-escalation and ongoing training to support our district and also students with special needs. And in addition to that, our district do provide additional support to District 79 who don't have that staff that are trainers, and to be able to provide them with those strategies as well. So we do an outreach, so we're not just, within our district, but we also go out and provide that additional support. Another question that was raised that I know that it's on my purview, and that is school safety training. I know that Commander Katojo is on this call as well, and she can dive deeper as far as what her command does, ongoingly. But one of the things I do want to share with you is that my office, in collaboration with the Office of Safety and Youth Development under the Chancellor's Office of Safety and Prevention and Partnership, we work collaboratively together and provide special needs training in behavior and autism for the new school safety agents at the police academy. And this is twice a year. So twice a year, we provide that training. We really dive very deep into the strategies, how to work, not only with the staff, but with the students, how what are some of the manifestation of the disabilities that they might find that the students may have, and how best to engage so that it is not impulsive response, but is more nurturing therapeutically. And so that when they engage with our students, it's not with any level of aggression. And so we also provide a full day training on autism, and so that the new recruits get a much better and a deeper sense of working with students who are nonverbal, working with students that may not give you eye contact, and things of that sort, and what and how best to be able to respond. One of the reasons why this was so terribly important that we do this and we continue this partnership is because Avante Aquendo was ours. And when Avante Aquendo went missing on October 4th, 2013, we, as a district, looked very deeply and very hard at what else can we do to ensure that all our partners are aware of our students and their needs and so forth, so that not only our staff, but the partnerships that we have with our agents. And so this partnership has been ongoing with school safety and with DOE. Another point that was asked that I would like to share with you, and it had to do with safety plans. The safety plans, I mentioned the individual school safety plans. The safety plans are still being certified. And once all the safety plans have completed certification, parents will, at request, can receive the parent version of the safety plan. And the plans are reviewed. Everyone who is a PA president at the school will be able to meet with the principal and to go over the actual plan if they have not, done so, because there might have been some more revisions earlier on when they had their initial school safety committee meeting, and maybe the PA president would like to have more clearer understanding as to the finalization of the plan. That is just a meeting with the principal, and that definitely can happen, but not a copy of the original plan. No original plan copies can be disseminated out. That is a violation of FERPA. However, every parent, upon request, can receive the parent version of the plan. The other question that was asked was individual, let me see, that was just said, that one, missing student protocol. And as I already alerted to, it was so important that that we continue providing ongoing refreshers and training to all our D75 staff, because again, Avante Aquendo was ours. But in addition to that, my office, along with several principals, were the pioneers that supported in initiating the guidelines and the protocols for the missing student. Back in 2014, when after Avante went missing, it was at the request of City Council to ensure that there were clear guidelines as to what schools are responsible for doing, making sure that parents are notified. So the missing student protocol is live and it is ongoing. And then afterwards, in 2015, the City Council went further and said that we also needed more guidelines as far as what should schools do. So between 2014 and 2015, the DOE as a whole developed missing student protocols that everyone will be held responsible for. In addition to that, it's responding to the door alarms, and door alarms have been placed on all exit doors, and what are the responses that each individual have, whether you are in the classroom, what are you mandated to do? And if you're out of the classroom, what are you mandated to do? So those are clear protocols and guidelines that are rolled out every year, and is in the District 75, it is done also as a refresher. So I wanted to part right here and say that one of the things that our district does on election day, we didn't do it during COVID the way we normally would do it because of the COVID and people were working from home. However, we did go back to doing it this year, and that is every new paraprofessional Irregardless of their training at the school level with their principals, we make sure, my office and the superintendent's office, make sure that every new paraprofessional receive details regarding the guidelines for transitioning students safely throughout the school day. And we go step by step with those guidelines to ensure that they have a full understanding of what those responsibilities are. And then those guidelines should be mirrored with the school's school-wide system, as far as many of you may know it as PBIS, and so forth, but there are hallway expectations, cafeteria expectations, morning entry, dismissal, lining up, transitioning in the halls. All of those expectations are clearly documented in every single one of our schools, but we also want to make sure that it mirrors what the expectations are with the guidelines that was created for transition students throughout the day. That was initiated in 2015, and these guidelines are still in place. And then I see that there was a question on emergency preparedness. So for emergency preparedness, every New York City Department of Education principal must take the emergency preparedness. It's a mandatory training every 2 years, and they are certified through FDNY that they've received this training. Any principal that does not show the certification is issued violations. And those violations will continue until the principal is able to complete their training. And it's a monetary violation. It is very expensive. So within District 75, all our principals are certified and have completed the certification training. And in that training, it dives very deep into what to do in the event of whether it is incident that's a threat inside the school, or if it's an evacuation that is required, or soft or hard lockdown, and what to do if there's an incident that's happening outside the building as far as sheltering in and so forth. Those strategies that the principal have developed also requires that there is a building response team in place. And the building response team is not school specific. The building response team is building specific, unlike the crisis team that is mandated in the 411. The crisis team is every school must have a crisis team that has received the therapeutic crisis intervention training. So that's different, and they need to have a team. A team means more than one. So it's a minimum of 2 that they will need depending on their size of their organization. And they must have a room that has been identifiable where they will be taking the student in the event that that student requires de-escalation. Now, even though that is something, as I'm jumping back to the crisis for a minute, even though the 411 came about, I just wanted to just bring to your attention that when it comes to the state regulation, the timeout room has been instituted since April of 1994, where the state, looks at not so much, they're not regulating the student who is in crisis, but they are regulating the space where the student is being placed to, returning to, going to, in the event that the student needs to support in de-escalation. So that is something that we want to make sure that our schools, even though they're following the 411, but because we serve students with special needs and have IEPs, we want to make absolute certain that we are upholding the regulations as far as what that space should look like went for de-escalation and such. And again, when it comes to our principals being certified, yes, we have all our principals certified and with the D10 certification cards that they received from FDNY, and that training is in emergency readiness and preparedness. We have a building response team that works collaboratively throughout, making when we have schools on the campus, we make sure that District 75 is well represented, in the building as well. Are there any questions for me?
Yes. Yes, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm waiting.
We can hear you.
Before I say this, no disrespect. Yeah, thank you guys so much to be part of the meeting. During that time, I've been a student for a very long time, and we've been dealing crises in these decades of millennia between prostitution, gangs, and violence, and all the criticism by massacre shooting. Those times when kids are not specialized, some of these kids are concerning this days. Even like they don't have special needs, when they don't have autism, kids should be practicing about training their self of procedures and telling how to become the next disaster repairs.
It's a point well taken. Was that directed for me or was it for NYPD?
No, it was directed from the agencies of private and the municipal agencies.
Is there anyone on that can answer that question?
Well, we appreciate your input. Thank you.
That was my answer. That was my answer.
Thank you. Are there any other questions?
What I would like to say is everything that I've shared is public information. And so if your prospective schools should be able to provide you with copies of the transitional guidance document, which is what's also included in the transitional guidance document is the entire expectation that has been designed to make it very user-friendly for not only the school, but also for the students and also for parents. So that when you see the guidelines, you're able to see exactly what should be happening inside the schools, and it should be visible. When you walk in, you should be able to see clearly where is the lineup, in the auditorium, where are students going to sit, in the cafeteria, everything is coded and properly identifiable. You will see staff posted at gates or any open area. If they're in the playground, they will be at the gates where, to prevent students from going out. If it's in the cafeteria, they will be at all exit doors to prevent, individuals from wandering or happen to be walking out and so forth. In many of our schools, they have different entry points inside the buildings because of a large amount of busing. So you would see staff posted at the door to ensure that they're keeping a visual on the students, knowing where they are and so forth. So these point of entries for arrival, dismissals, and so forth are all identifiable as to not best practice, but mandated that schools are doing. You will also find in the transitional guidance document the entire missing student protocol. You will find that responding to the door alarms. All of that is language in the transitional guidance document. And finally, you will see You know, what does the building response team, how is it made up? What does it look like? And also provide the roles of, you know, the BRT leader, the emergency officer, the incident assessor, special needs, assembly point coordinator. Everything from soups to nuts is found right in that guidance document. At your prospective schools, they will be able to, you know, provide you with that information. But also, I wanted to make sure that you received it. So, Ms. Husbands, did you receive that copy that when I sent it out to you? I just want to make sure.
Yes,
that
I
I'm-
did receive it.
Perfect.
I did receive it, and I distributed it to the council and asked them to, you know, share it with their school communities.
Excellent.
Thank you. I
Excellent.
appreciate
Excellent. You got it. Okay. Thank you. Thank you all for having me. I will remain on, you know, in case there might be a question that might pop up that I may need to answer.
Speaking of
Thank you.
that, all right, let me speak. Thing is, like, first of all, we need to get it together. This country is very crisis right now. We seeing a lot of kids are dying in the streets. They're dying everything, but I can't say racist stuff. First of all, they're everywhere. They're targeting schools. They're targeting housing complex. They're targeting everywhere. And the provide is to the New York City Police Department and school safety agents and neighborhood coordination officers. We need to get it together. It's like what happens like 2020 when during the civil unrest, when they say defunding police or Black Lives Matter. Like, this is a, like, you know, serious situation, like a wake up call. Like, they want to remove police department, school safety out of the 8 law enforcement agencies and transfer to DOE. How can we do with these kids? Or how can we do it? Because, you know, there's a lot of, you know, regular kids, they're out in the street, you know, being around with like too much loitering, too much gossiping, too much drama. And it's too much case scenario, you know, around. How we provide that since the next pair and the next disaster.
Thank you for your, we understand what you're saying. We have other presenters and they may touch on what you're speaking about right now.
Thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Joanne Jones, would you like to introduce the next presenter?
Hi. Do you want me to?
Thank you. Yes, introduce yourself. The best way, introduce yourself and let everyone know who you are. And we're gonna listen to what you have to tell us. Thank you, Commander.
Hi. Yes. So I am Suzanne Catogio. I am the commanding officer from School Safety in the Bronx East. I run the 41, 42, 43, 45, 47, and 49 precincts. I'm trying to kind of go slow because I know that you have translators as well. I currently have 391 agents and approximately 215 schools. Normally, I would tell you maybe a couple of years ago, before the pandemic and before the defund the NYPD, this command almost had 600 agents. And now we have 391. So you can imagine the shortages that we have in the schools. What else? I have specialized units, just so you know, we're not your typical agent that sits behind the desk. I have field intelligence officers that follow up on students that have that get arrested on the outside of the school for all different reasons, whether it's possession of a gun, shooting someone, whatever it is. I have a crime analysis unit They run my crimes every day. They run the crimes in the schools as well as outside of the schools in my command. I have trainers naturally that train our members of service for any up-to-date things that they need to be trained for. I also have crime prevention that go to schools to try to prevent crimes from occurring. And I have SCAs, which are equivalent to the neighboring community outreach offices in the precincts. So they're called school community agents, sorry. So they are assigned to a lot of my high schools as well as my task force. And my task force are the people that drive around in either the vans or the vehicles and respond to schools when there are emergency situations. I hope I'm not going too fast. Okay. My community outreach unit is a unit that bridges the gap between us and the community. I think I saw one of my officers on the call right now, Carrillo. So my community offices offer mediations in schools when there are assaults or fights, presentations about bullying, cyberbullying. They do conflict resolution. They speak to kids about gun violence, voices within, peer pressure, smoking, alcohol, drugs, prescription drugs, and introduction to the law. So those are some of the topics that they do. They go to schools and they assist the administration with anything that they need. They also attend meetings at nighttime, if anything. School safety also offers Explorer posts. We're trying to have one in each precinct. We have one in, we have multiples right now. We have, off the top of my head, we have Evander High School, we have Lehman High School, we have, and Stevenson High School. So that's just to name 3 of them. We also have a camp in the summertime at a location called, it's YPA, Youth Police Academy. And it's school safety and uniformed members of service working together, teaching kids, which is similar to Explorers. They teach them drills. They do practice car pullovers, like car stops. It's just working with NYPD and building relationships with them. A concern of ours, just to go into, just to go into something else, weapons. So we have multiple kids that are bringing weapons to school, and a lot of our weapons are caught through scanning. Just so you know, I have, answer that, I have 15 scanning schools right now, and we also have something called unannounced scanning. Unannounced scanning is offered throughout the division. Principals request for it. And if not request for it, it occurs because a weapon was found in a school or there was a shooting in the vicinity or on the outside. So just so you know, right now, unannounced scanning is a desire. This is something that is requested for every day by multiple principals all over the city. And we only have 3 to 4 additional teams that go out to do this around the city. So I'll give you an example. The other day we had a shooting outside of Tottenville. So for over a week, they had unannounced scanning there. So just so you know, weapons that we're carrying, you're gonna have to answer for it. We'll get back to the lieutenant. I'm sorry, I have a situation in one of my schools that's like an emergency situation that I've been dealing with. So the weapons that we're finding a lot of, that we have a problem with, are pepper spray, mace, knives. These are things that kids are bringing to school for protection and they're not allowed to. Stun guns, and they're coming in all shapes and sizes. And I mean, kids are bringing multiple things in: weapons, knives, credit card knives. I don't know if you could see this. This is a credit card and then it turns into a knife. So we collect a lot of weapons. I want to say throughout the division right now, we've caught a couple thousand, maybe 8,000 weapons so far. And I think in the 20s on firearms that were loaded. So this is a problem, but one of the most recent problems that we've been having is the gel guns. We've been having kids come to school with these little gel pellets and these little toy looking guns, and it's become problematic. So they do receive juvenile reports from the school safety division officers that respond. And And I just want you to know that it's not permitted. These are colorful guns that are being brought into the school, and they actually hurt when they shoot them. And they also are freezing the pellets to where it hurts even more and it causes injury to the kids. What else? Fighting in school, like I said, we have mediations. Not everything has to be an arrest.
Sorry,
Yes.
as for him, he wants you to stop the meeting and go downstairs to 180 and get
Oh.
all the information.
All right, okay. Ms. Jones. Or who's running this meeting, Ms. Jones?
No, it's actually Ms.
Husbands.
Husbands.
Yeah, Ms. Husbands, I have a situation where a kid sprayed mace and multiple kids are going to a hospital in one of our schools. So I'm gonna have to go respond to it. I'm sorry.
We understand. Call of
I'll
duty.
try to come back on within a half an hour if you're still on. I'll keep my stuff still on, okay?
Thank you. Be careful.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thank you.
If you want, Aisha, I can move forward and introduce the next presenter,
Yes,
or
I'm
you want to
not,
do Q&A?
we can do a Q, well, Ms. Mason is still here. If you have
Oh,
any
that's true.
further questions, for Ms. Mason, yes.
All right, so you want to move on to the next presenter?
Is Officer Mason or Detective Richards, are you here? Okay, so let's just do.
Mary Mason Simpson is still here. I'm still here with DO, but I'm DOE.
Thank you, Ms. Mason. We appreciate your attendance.
You're welcome.
Okay, so let's do some Q&A. Ms. Jones, for Ms. Mason.
Sure. Does anyone have any questions for Miss Mary Mason Simpson? She was reporting out about safety. She's the Safety Director, Office of Safety and Suspensions for District 71 citywide. We are taking questions now. You can raise your hand, or you can put it also in the chat.
I have a question.
Go right ahead.
Hi, it's Gwen Sachs. I'm sorry that I'm a little late. I had an appointment, so I apologize.
You're muted, Ms. Sachs. We can't hear you.
Okay, there I go. Thank you. What training and what in-services and what visitations to D75 do you do to prepare individuals and agents for D75 children of various disabilities and various levels of autism? What training and constant training do the agents get to deal with this? Or learn how to deal with these children on a different aspect than general ed students?
So that is a very good question. And just to paraphrase it, because it was going in and out, basically you want to know how are the safety agents receiving ongoing training, the initial training and ongoing training, working with students, particularly with autism and other special needs. And do I have it right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so the initial training is done with myself, which I had mentioned earlier, and I'm sorry that I missed you. It's my office along with the Chancellor's Office of Safety and Youth Development out of the Safety and Preventions and Partnership. We work collaboratively together with School Safety Division at the Police Academy, and every new recruit received this ongoing training. Matter of fact, we were doing this training even prior to Avante Aquendo going missing back in 2013, but then it became mandatory. We were doing it as best practice because we really wanted to make sure agents really had a good sense of working with District 75 students. But then after Avante Aquendo went missing, it became mandatory. And so it went from having one class per year and it went to having 2 classes. It would be more classes, but it all depends on when the graduation and so forth. So generally the graduation is twice a year. And so during that time, just before the agents are assigned where they're going, they all receive the training. And so we generally provide training to 200 plus new recruits every single year. But every session. So we're looking at a grand total. It could be anywhere from 400 to 600, all depending on the size of the class that will receive the training. Then every command, and I'm sorry that CO Catozio had to go step off for an emergency, but every command does have trainers. And so they have trainers that also have received our training, and then they provide their agents with ongoing training to make certain that they are refreshed as to how to best respond, particularly, how to engage, how to, de-escalate, a situation, not, grabbing students, bringing them down to the floor, putting knees in the back, slapping cuffs on them. Absolutely not. So they learn the proper way to help to de-escalate, having that partnership, being able to know the student, being able to know how to get into the space, because when you're at your angriest, you don't want anyone in your space. So knowing when it is appropriate to be able to engage and so forth. So they work very closely with their trainers at their command base. But then in addition, it's our schools. Our schools, as unique as they are, we're multi-sided. So we can have one principal with 10 locations, 15 locations, 20 locations. So, and not every site is going to be the same. It might be different populations there. It might be different grade levels there. And then the environment, where the site is located, the community at large could also be different. And so really making sure that the agents become part of the school environment, knowing the students. And it's so good when I walk into a building and I see that the agents know even the student's name, knowing how. I'm in a building right now on Jennings where the agents know the student's name. They engage, they know how to properly de-escalate, not grabbing students and so forth, because that's what you want to see. And you want to see that ongoing. So that happens when the school itself provides that additional training. One of the things that I mentioned earlier is that we, in partnership with the central office, we have trainers, so it's train the trainers, and in therapeutic crisis intervention that came out of Cornell University. So our trainers at the district level provide trainer training to staff inside the schools. So this happens to be one of the buildings where the leadership even happens to be a facilitator, happens to be a trainer, have received Cornell University's training. And so they are able to provide that ongoing TCIS training, which is therapeutic crisis interventions for school training, even for our safety agents. So when those agents receive the training, they just let the commander know, and then the commander will send a replacement agent for the day, because it's a full day training, so that the agent is able to sit through the trainings and so forth. So that kind of partnership is ongoing, very welcoming, and it's something that we want to see, because they can speak about the uniqueness of their students. We give the overall training, but then it's nothing like when they get that individualized training from the school, because then they can speak specifically about the students that they're going to be serving. I hope that answers the question.
Yes. Did you ever have shadowing or like field experience? So before they graduate, they shadow somebody in a school already to learn hands-on, or have them talk to the deans and people in charge of the behavioral teams to see also, because as you realize, and as you've spoken about, there's nothing like hands-on experience.
Exactly.
So something like student teaching, or feel or shadowing somebody before they graduate in the school to see exactly what it's like?
That's an excellent question. They actually go out to visit the school, and they, in the summertime, right? This is where they really get a great advantage. In the summertime, District 75 is open because we're 12 months, and so we have the Chapter 683 and so forth. And so one of the things that I'm seeing coming back again, because remember we were closed, we had go remote and things of that sort. So we didn't get a chance to really do it, within the last 2 years. But all of that is coming back now, where the agents are able to meet ahead, as before they fully start they get into the command. The commanding officer will say, "I want you to now go to, and you're going to be under this particular agent. You're going to see how they do things." I even see it at the district office, because at the district office as well, we have a school in the building, and although there's one agent assigned, but we benefit, especially in the summertime, where that extra agent comes in and learn the ropes. Understand, because even though we have a small school in the building, there are over 400 staff in the building and ongoing training. So it's a heavy flow. And you don't want an unknown to walk into the building, and then could actually hurt people, that and so forth. So because remember, the district office is also located downtown in an area where there's a lot of mental health issues, it's and things of that sort. So that's why I was saying that uniqueness is so important, and it's something that I am seeing that they're bringing back, because it was something that the agents felt was very helpful. And I myself would see the agents because, one of their trainers, and then they would remember me. They would remember me more than I remember them. And they would say, "You are one of the trainers." And I said, "Well, welcome. How do you like it?" And they said, "I'm so glad that I had that training, because I see that you do need to have that partnership. And then also be very careful of your own personal biases, because oftentimes when I, am meeting with them, I ask them the question, "Did you ever hear of District 75? What did you hear about this?" And they may have their own personal biases about it, because they may say, "Well, the students are this, or the students are that." And then by the time we finish the training, I go back to the initial question, and they have learned that, wow, what I thought was the way, what to expect about the district and the students and so forth. I've learned that it is me. I have to change my way of thinking. And when I approach students, I see the student, not the behavior. And, one of the things that many of you might have heard, even in your own, goings about in your own professional worlds and so forth, you might have heard about that iceberg, because a lot of places, my church even talk about the iceberg. So that iceberg is something that, many people, see the initial, that ice cap on the top of the water, and you make assumptions, but then underneath that, is all the needs and the support and what we need to be offering and giving and nurturing too. So it's the same thing when it comes to our students. You might initially see what you're seeing as whatever type of behavior, and you're developing that opinion. But beneath that surface is where we come in. That's that expertise and so forth, where we chisel away at that iceberg. So, but the only way we can meet that student at that need, they have to trust us. And the only way they can trust us, we have to build a relationship. And that's the same thing that we say to the safety agents. When you come into the New York City Department of Education, you're walking into, 1.1 million students. They all have different needs, wants, and so forth. And sometimes our students are showing a certain type of behavior. That behavior you're seeing is because there's a need underneath. And so we want to dive into what that need is, so that we can better be able to support the student, because that is when it becomes a teachable moment. And that's when because behavior is learned. You know, you don't come out the womb behaving the way you're behaving. You learn to behave that behavior because you're either trying to get something or you're trying to get away from something. So once we dive into that and build that relationship and work with the students, we're going to find that you have developed and now have a wonderful friendship. You have a wonderful partnership, and you have now broke that iceberg where now even the students sometimes, you know, they high five, fist pound, you name it, with our safety agents and such, you know, and then we want the same thing with our staff. We want the same thing with our one-to-one paraprofessionals. We want the same thing with our teachers, us administrators, and the leaders. And even myself, when I walk into the building, like this building I'm in today, you know, when I walked in, I was, you know, speaking to all the students, and many of them really recognized me. And one of the students, and I just, and some of you don't know me that well, but I love a good testimony. And one of the students who they said never speaks to anyone, right? We were in the elevator and the student turned to me and said, "Have a nice day." Everyone in the elevator lit up. And they said, "Oh my gosh, she never speaks to anyone," because she sensed, you know, the trust. And that's what we want. We want where our kids trust us and that they feel safe, and that this is someone that I feel safe with, and so forth. Building that relationship, showing them the smile and saying, you know, it was good to see you this morning. Because sometimes just saying to our students, good morning, could also be a trigger. So but when you say to our students, "It's good to see you this morning," you know, or "I am so happy you're here," you know, that becomes something different. So it's just changing our approach, because we don't know what that school bus ride was like, you know. We don't know.
Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Mason. We appreciate it. We have another question. I'm sorry to interrupt. We have another question I just want to be able to get to.
Sure.
Miss Christy Angel.
Yes, thank you. I wanted to go a bit backwards to piggyback off of the initial question that Ms. Sachs asked, because I was going to speak about that partly with you as well. It's kind of triple layered, but with the drills, I know that each school is supposed to have 8 of them before December 31st. How do you manage and monitor that this is happening or that they're going appropriately? And with the safety plans for school, I know that sometimes they have a boilerplate, but do the schools have specific information that's shared with the parents? And the last part is with de-escalation. What does that look like? Because as you're speaking, I do have one of the children that does have severe behavioral issues that are in school. So a lot of that is really familiar to me. However, how are the crisis pairs trained? What does de-escalation look like as a parent? Because right now I know with the chancellor's regs, what it looks like, but I do not know what it looks like with schools. The safety plan is a boilerplate that we can get from the DOE online. But as a parent, I want to know more. Like, how are we regulating? How do we know that all of these drills and trainings are happening to make sure that things are going the right way?
So these are 3 excellent questions. So one is drills, and another one is the de-escalation, and the one in the middle was the safety plans, correct? I just wanted to make sure that I got the ballpark of it. Now, when it comes to the drills, you're absolutely right. How do we know if the drills are being conducted in a specific way and so forth? Well, as a borough safety director, which is what I am, and even though I'm regional because I cover all 5 boroughs, I do, you know, have that opportunity to meet with the principal and discuss, you know, as far as how she or he feels their drills are coming along, things of that sort. And then I also meet with the team. The team would be the building response team. And then I will say to them, I would like, you know, the list of dates in which you are projecting to have your drills. And I will do a unannounced, you know, observation of the drills. And so I let them know that ahead of time. and that I, will be coming in to observe your drills. And as I observe them, and I will, provide them with, what my observations show, because we always can learn to tighten it up, a little bit and so forth. In that observation, I generally highly recommend that NYPD, one of the representatives, and it might be one of the NCOs or the PCO could possibly be there as well, so that they can see it from a different lens. FDNY is encouraged to be there if it's an evacuation, so that even the exit points where they are gathering for to receive further information may not be the best. They might be crossing the street, crossing the street might pose a safety risk, because if it is a smoke condition in the building, the fire trucks are going to be coming in. They're going to come hard and they're going to come strong in multiple directions. And so if the building is trying to evacuate and crossing the street, it might put students and staff in danger, particularly if they're pushing students in wheelchairs and such. So we go into a deeper dive and conversation with that. And that's a tabletop. So that would be considered a tabletop exercise that I would, engage, even the building response team in, to have them further think through the unique of their building, and will crossing over to the street and so forth, will that pose a safety risk for students? Others, it depends on where they're located. They could be in an area where it's considered the junction, where a lot of traffic are flowing through and out and so forth. So they might need much more input even from the precinct as far as street closures and so forth. So we have conversations about that. So when it comes to the drills, it's ongoing conversation with the school, with the team, to see what else might be needed and so forth. One of the schools that I did do this drill with, well, especially the one that I'm in right now, which is on Jennings Street, but also Longfellow. Longfellow have a very high percentage of students that are in wheelchairs, or that may have a gait in their walk, or they may have, they might be wanderers and so forth, or flight risk. So we want to make certain that we have the cooperation of the community, that we are able to close streets off, and so that, when they are doing the evacuations and so forth, they have, they're able to do it safely, and all students will be able to know what to do, and they work very closely with FDNY. When it comes to this, did that help in any way before I jump to the next one? Did that help your question?
It definitely is informative in regard to what you guys are trying to do to make sure that they are accomplishing. But I think so what I'm hearing is there is no definitive way to necessarily know if schools are accomplishing the drills that they're supposed to do before the 31st.
Oh, I'm sorry. We receive data from Central all the time. So the data from Central is always letting us know that if a school is out of compliance, or if a school have not, it might be that they just forgot to document that they did the drills. So there's ongoing data being collected from the central office to monitor, to make sure that schools are staying on task, because this is a compliance thing. So it's not, oh, I'll do a drill if I feel like it. This is mandated, so they must do the drills. But I was speaking more of doing it with fidelity and making sure that it was the uniqueness of the schools and so forth. So on the one end, yes, the central office is constantly monitoring it, making sure that they are documenting that they're doing the drills. But on the other end, it's also the as far as really diving deeper to make sure that what has been put in place is conducive for the population that you're serving, and that you're bringing all the partners in. You're bringing in FDNY, you're bringing in the police. Do you need to have street closures? Do you need to have, community support, things of that sort as well? We don't want, drivers shooting down the street when you have the staff outside with stop signs and students are walking across to do an evacuation, we want all to support this, this effort and so forth. We don't want anyone to get hurt. So that's staying in touch with the community, making sure that the police, the local police are involved. And if, like I mentioned, if the street closure is necessary, they will have that as well. So the safety plan, remember, the PA president is part of the school safety committee meeting. So the school safety committee meeting is ongoing. It's once a month, and the PA president is really on every safety plan that the school is have instructional classes in. So let's say, for example, and the reason why I pause is instructional, because let's say, for example, it's a work site or an inclusion site. An inclusion site and a work site, the inclusion site is now the student's placement. And that D75 provide the mandates for the students. If it's OT or PT, or if it's whatever the related services for the student, District 75 will provide at the inclusion site. But all instruction is under the inclusion program, which is the gen ed school. So with that, District 75 is not listed in the safety plan for the inclusion site, because technically the student is placed at the general ed school, only receiving related services from District 75. That is the partnership, because this student is on the road to receiving a diploma. Okay, so that's least restricted, that's LRE, that is total success for our students. Okay, so a work site is exactly that, what that is. So if it's a work site, it is not an instructional site. It is a site that the student is designated at for, to learn maybe a culinary skills or and so forth. So it is not an official instructional site. So again, will not be listed on although students go to that location, they will not be listed on the plan. A perfect example is at the district office. We have a school at the district office, but we also have a work site at the district office. So if it's the work site and another school was utilizing it, like a few years ago, 79M was utilizing that site. 79 in Manhattan was utilizing that location as a work site. The 79, the school itself would not be listed on the safety plan. Okay, so because it's only a work site. We have work sites outside of the school as well, but or outside of DOE as well, but not for the work sites. Now, all instructional sites, yes, that is where the PA president would be listed on the safety plan and should be receiving the invitations to attend the school safety committee meetings. And so those school safety committee meetings will dive deeper as far as the safety related concerns. Who is also at those meetings is a representative from the local precinct that supports the school that's at that location, the school safety level 3, or the supervisor would also be at those meetings, or the safety agent himself, but also it would be the PA president attending that meeting. Very important to be able to hear. And then the local precinct will be able to share what has been put in place, because I heard earlier someone was asking, making the area safer for students and so forth. The local precinct will be able to say, this is what we have to offer. Here are trainings that we offer also. We can provide parents with this, that, and the other. They will also share with you about some of the dangerous items that students are bringing into the schools that, you may not even realize that they're purchasing. and they will let you know about those particular items and such. They will also let you know about various different gang-related activity, and they would share with you what they have in place to reduce the gangs or gang awareness. Also, I know Katozio had to step off, but school safety in itself has a wonderful school program to train parents and so forth, in all types of awareness and skits and so forth, to help you to become a lot more aware of even language, certain types of TikToks and all sorts of, social media platforms, so that you're much more in tune. I am so not tech savvy, and so they have helped me to become a lot more aware of some of the languages that are out there. Because when I first started this job, we went through this whole training, but everything that we learned when I started this back in 2010, that is now obsolete. Even the gangs that they have out there now, when we went through all this training, it's obsolete. So having ongoing, refresher as to the who's who and the what, that is why, we keep this partnership with the, with school safety and also with the precincts at large. But that partnership is also what NYPD want with the parents. I know particularly in the Bronx, they have after work hours where they're asking parents to come out to to events that they're having, so that they can continue to provide you with more and more information. That's what your local precincts, are doing, so that you are kept in the, abreast to what is happening out there. I know Katozio wanted to speak to you about the ongoing trainings that her team have, where they can provide you with continuous information and so forth, so that you can have that awareness, partnership, and continue to grow and work collaboratively together as to, coming up with the solutions and not just focusing on the problems.
Thank you, Ms. Mason. It's good to know that ongoing.
I didn't answer the one. I wanted to go.
Okay.
I just had to take a sip of water because of my allergies. But the de-escalation piece, I just wanted to point out that it's a two-part with this de-escalation. It's DOE, but it's also NYPD. So let me just dive back into the DOE part. The training had to be, and this was under former Chancellor Joe Klein. One of the things that he pressed upon was that whatever the trainings are, it had to be research-based and credible. So the therapeutic crisis intervention training that every single New York City Department of Education staff receive, it is through Cornell University. It is research-based. It is very credible and is used, matter of fact, not only nationally, but internationally. And so we are really blessed to be able to have had this partnership for many years with Cornell University. And so in District 75, we have master trainers. So these master trainers are trained the trainers. So they provide not only training, ongoing training for staff, especially new staff coming in, new paraprofessionals, so forth, but they also train select staff in the District 75 school system to become trainers, so that you can continue to build capacity in the school, so that you're not waiting for the trainers of the district to be able to, fit you into a class session that they're having, but that once you build that capacity and have trainers in your building, the leadership can have ongoing refresher training, ongoing training to support staff on an as-need basis. And they can take a look and see, where we see that these incidents are starting to spike up. Who else will need to be, receiving this ongoing training? And the training in itself, What I would like to propose is that you invite perhaps the Office of PBIS team that does the training to one of your meetings, and they can give you an overview so that you can hear how they go about, this training, and you can see the percentage. There's a very large percentage of District 75 staff and so forth that are certified, that have been trained, because even if you've been trained, you may not have been certified in it, but have the knowledge base in it and so forth. But they will be able to break those things down for you. And they also can probably offer you a session. They can offer you the training so that you can get a sense and a feel, because it really, I have found to be, it's therapeutic crisis intervention. And just the word itself, therapeutic, already, you start to feel, the calm and the relax. It shows us how to be able to engage with others in a therapeutic way. So that is, how do we engage with one another? How do we engage with our students therapeutically? So it's not coming in a hostile way. It's not blaming the student and never wanting them to come back into the room again. It's not, I want the student transferred out of my school, but it becomes therapeutically understanding one another, building the relationship so that we are able to get to the core of what that need is, so that we can develop and provide the support for the student. Also, the question was, when staff, engage with the student, let's say it didn't work. Those strategies that I know, those temporary strategies that I'm putting together, Mary, she's triggered, and what I'm putting in place is not working, to the point where now she's escalated to the point where I'm calling the parent. And if I'm calling the parent to say that, everything we've tried so far for Mary is not working, do you want us to call 911 to have Mary, go to the hospital, or are you, do you want to come in to pick her up? That's, that will be the next step. So the parent might say, well, yes, call 911. I know what this is about. I know that it's A, B, C, and D. Okay, and so that could be it. Now that we know that this strategy didn't work for Mary, what we also want to do is meet with the parent, and we want to put together what they call a crisis plan. But we can't put a crisis plan together for Mary when she's at an outburst, when she's at the most dangerous, because she's not rational at this point. But once she's de-escalated, we want to put that plan together, where we got to do it collaboratively with the parent, where we're saying, and it doesn't have to be where you have to physically come into the school, although that would be very helpful, but where you're meeting, you're having knowledgeable that this plan is being put in place. And so when they put this plan in place for Mary, they start at the very basics, working with Mary, and they will say to Mary, the other day, when you came off, I'm going to use coming off the school bus, you were so angry. Can you tell me something more about that? And you're working with the student, and you're finding out what caused that. And then when you're at your angriest, how does that make you feel? Well, I feel like, whatever. I feel like punching someone. I feel like throwing a chair, what? So instead of, you're coming up now with a strategy and a plan with Mary, that's their first base with the crisis plan. Instead of throwing that chair, what else can we put in place? And so what's happening in a lot of our schools, and matter of fact, it's even here in the building that I'm in on Jennings today, they have sensory rooms and so forth that they have put in place that can help students. Sometimes students need to squeeze something, or they may need to throw something, but everything is soft, and so forth. So what we're doing, we're putting that plan in place for the student, that the student said that will help me because I need to squeeze on something. And you can even give them
one of those squish balls and so forth. How does that feel in your hand? Well, that feels good. Do you think that might be able to help you? And our goal also, and one of the things a big piece that I forgot to let you know, we also work with OPT. So we work with OPT at the school level, where the principals have 2 times a year meetings with the drivers and the attendants. And the reason why it's twice a year, because they change the drivers and the attendants, but they work with them and they have a huge meeting with them where they go over different types of manifestations and they go over their mantra. They go over what their PBIS system is. What is bus behavior looking like on the school bus? And they also let them know there are some students that's not going to be able to sit 1 hour. They're not going to be able to sit idling while you're waiting for another student to come down. So what other manipulative can you have, for them to be able to use? Some of those manipulatives that is worked out with a parent, the driver and the attendant and the school. Other manipulatives, the school attendant will already have them on the bus. So it all depends on, the specifics and the specific needs and so forth. And so it is that partnership and that collaboration that is ongoing that is done, because the goal is to be able to de-escalate the situation before the student goes into a total outburst. We don't want any of our students coming off buses or inside classrooms or inside cafeterias or whatever, where they are hurting themselves and hurting others. So the goal is to be able to recognize, and that's why you got to know your student. And that's one of the first things that is taught in therapeutic crisis, really knowing your student and knowing when. So just because you see me and I'm quiet today, I might already be triggered. That might be my trigger sign. I might have already been escalated just because I'm quiet. Don't think I'm quiet. Oh boy, good, she's quiet today. But know that something might be up and how to best engage so that you're showing the student that you care. I hope that helped.
Oh, it definitely did. Just a follow-up question, will we be able to, as a council, get a list of the certified trainers or the master trainers that you were referring to?
You definitely, because especially the master trainers, absolutely, because then the master trainers can actually, like I said, share with you what, whatever it is that maybe an overview, giving you, maybe even a training in itself, maybe a shorter version of the training so you can get a sense of what is, how it is done and what what does it feel like, what does it look like, and so forth. But the initial person is Glazin Salario, and she's the coordinator of the Office of PBIS. And then Natasha Davison, she oversees all of the therapeutic crisis intervention training for District 75. So those are your 2 key personnel at the district level that, Ms. Husbands, you can even reach out to invite, like you're inviting me, you can invite to maybe one of your upcoming, CCD75 councils meetings.
That was very thorough. Thank you so very much.
Yes, it was, Ms. Mason. Thank you.
You're welcome.
We appreciate you, being here, and we've spoken before for maybe a few times to prepare for this meeting, and your dedication to the safety of our children is evident. Even the first conversation that I had, you shared your personal experience, and I appreciate you being here and be in the work that you're doing for our children and your children as well. I just want to ask the Spanish interpreter. You're welcome. I want to ask the Spanish interpreters if they have any questions on the Spanish line. Interpreter Benito, any questions?
Yes, no question in the Spanish line.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, I have a question. Is there, Ms. Mason, is there a emergency plan for natural disasters?
It's in the safety plan.
It's in the
So,
safety.
yes, it's in the safety. The safety plan gives you soups to nuts. It's bomb threats, natural disasters. It gives you like the what to do. And so it really helps, the school to understand what to do. It's very detailed, it's very user-friendly, it's outlined, so that. Now, the parent version will give you all of the guidelines as to what schools are to do. They just don't give you the rules and, the specific names, so you really do get a pretty good version of as far as what schools are, required to do and such.
Okay, thank you for that. Any questions for Ms. Mason? Does anyone have any further questions?
With HRC or YAI and the different agencies that our children go through, they're able to skip our children. I can't remember what the acronym means, but I know that it means physically managing our children. Does DOE have that option? Because I've heard stories and I really want to ask someone, is that appropriate?
That is a very good question. And even at the state level, they're now doing things more therapeutically, and it's a hands off because of injuries. And there are students, especially our students, with IEPs, they have health related issues as well, many of them. And if you grab a child, a certain way, and, maybe you're trying to restrain them, as they may say, and so forth, you could be seriously injuring the student. So when I first took this position over, restraints was something that was applied, but it wasn't applied to injure the student. It was applied really for students where if they needed to restrain, and it would have been documented in their IEP that Mary would require, restraints and so forth. And it was, handled in a more of a safe, in a more therapeutic way. How they were doing it. It wasn't so much putting children down on the floor, having their face into a mat, things of that sort, because that could cause suffocation. So it was really teaching, New York City Department of Education how to properly restrain, students, therapeutically. But then through time, within, I would say about a year and a half, with after further looking at how schools were going about doing, the restraints and so forth, it became unanimous that it was not going to be something that we can really oversee and make sure that it's being done with true fidelity. And so with the union backing it, and my office as well, and at that time Gary Heck was the superintendent, it was bad. So we, as a district, no longer restrain. Clearly, if a student is about to, run into the street, you're going to try to, save that child, but it's not the restraints that was, applied when, was helping a student who was in a crisis situation and so forth. So that was bad. And so, now, and then citywide was banned as well because the union got involved. The UFT and also CSA all agreed that it cannot be, really managed on a regular basis. And that was one of the criteria of Cornell University, where it really will need to be safeguarded and managed on a regular basis. And, what personnel will you be able to ensure that every single school was doing it with true fidelity? Which we can't, provide that. that type of a level of confidence, in our being able to do that, then we had to ban it. And so that's why now it's even breaking up fights, you had to really be very strategic as to how fights are being broken up. You don't just want to just grab kids, flinging them from one end to the other and so forth. You really have to know how to engage. And so, so all of that is where it is at this point, and school safety response, and school safety also understanding that it's not about taking our students down, slapping on the restraints, the cuffs or zip ties. I'm so sorry that you were not able to get those questions answered from Katogio regarding the zip ties and so forth. But that is something that put on students on an as needed basis. And I know for students with IEPs, it is something that has to be well thought out before that could be applied to any of our students. Because first of all, to be able to put those zip ties or whatever the case might be on the students, if a student is in a total outburst, you're never going to be able to get them on them. It has to be someone that some students, due to their disability, they need to be like almost like cuddled and so forth, and that it would have to be on the IEP. So it's very, 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 it's been a lot of back and forth with NYPD School Safety Division as far as how, what type of restraints and so forth, if any, you're going to be applying. I have seen with my own eyes students in crisis that, have even spit in the officer's face. We have made absolute certain, working with the precincts, working, the NCOs, and coming into some of our schools, working with our students and knowing our students that, this is not a student that you want to apply cuffs on. This is a student that you want to continue to show that you care and you're building your relationship. So if you're triggered because a student spit in your face, then you're not the one to be responding, because you just made it, and so forth. So how would you, continue to engage? So that's something that, it's still a work in progress with our precincts, because sometimes the commanders do change at the precinct level, but it is something that, for example, our Queens school on Linden Boulevard. That was something with the 113th precinct worked very closely with our Queens school on Linden Boulevard to ensure that they understand the students. So they go into the school and they work with, a core group of the students in different things, in different capacities. It could be basketball, it could be whatever of interest that the precinct members, the officers from the precinct, and the school staff have said that this will work with them, where they bond and they come in together and they trust the officers. Another one that I can mention to you right off the top of my head is right down on 4th Street. Our 751 school right on 4th Street worked very well with the precinct, which is literally around the corner from them. They meet on a regular basis, but not only do our precincts work with them, but even this leadership there, the principal, have gone into the community and worked with the local stores and so forth, where she has shared with them what the school-wide mantra is. And as a student earned their points or whatever, then, they worked out where they could get a free slice of pizza and a soda, and so forth, and Dunkin' Donuts have worked with them, the local pizzeria, and so forth. So, this is what we're talking about, because it's going to take a village. And so this principal took that village mentality, and not only working with the precincts and so forth, but they come in and they share in different types of engagement with the students, but also the local merchants in the area and such. And so I also know that here in the Bronx, up on Westchester Avenue at 721X, we have at the local precinct come in, and they did all sorts of skits and so forth with the students, and they loved it. And so they look forward to this on an ongoing basis. And I saw it, and it was phenomenal. And I said, oh my God, this is what, this is the kind of stuff we need to be capturing and making sure that, even our parents, see this as well, because it is phenomenal. And to see how our children engage with, the officers and so forth, and how they work with our kids.
Thank you. We did have two other presenters, like you said, Commander Contigo, she was Call of Duty and she had to go. So we may have a part 2, but if there are no other questions, and I just want to let you know, Ms. Mary Mason, that we appreciate all the information and the relationship that we've developed. I appreciate you being here today and taking the time out of your schedule to give us some insight on what you do and some of the chancellor's regulations and how safety officers are trained. So we may have a part 2 and bring back the Bronx commander, as well as there was another NYPD was actually scheduled. Unfortunately, they were unable to make it today. But unless there are any other questions, I just want you to know that Ms. Angel said that this was great, and I don't know if she's raising her hands, or I think a round of applause she's giving you.
It was a great, very informative meeting, and I'm very happy to support you and very happy to be here to receive everything that you guys have given. And I am looking forward to a part 2. So thank you, because as a parent, it's very informational for me as well.
Exactly. You are very welcome. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you. Before we go, I see Ms. Sachs, you have your hand up. Do you have a question?
I would just like to give a shout out to P177Q safety officers. Phenomenal group of women. I am telling you, not only did they get personal with the clients as far as information and how to deal with them, they also work wonderfully with the parents and family members as well. So I just wanted to give P177Q a shout out.
Excellent. Excellent. That's good to hear. I caught a chill when you said that. I love hearing that.
And Mr. Lippman is doing a great job as far as safety is concerned. And I know you speak to him all the time.
All the time. He's phenomenal. I love him.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Ms. Sachs, for your input. We appreciate you. Are there any other statements or questions? So if not, I just want to thank everyone for being here today and remind you that this will be on the CCD75 outreach page, YouTube page. And I see one more question. I'm sorry. Yes, David?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
I have my hands up. As a long time, public New York City school student, I would like to see, more engagement, more refund. I would like to say thank you guys so much for part of the meeting. And also we can get through this. We can support law enforcement agencies, getting away from trouble, away from street life. We can teach these kids a lesson, but we're gonna handle it because we're not gonna be hurting them. We're gonna be, train them to know. Kids need to know, and parents need to cooperate and tell not a right thing to do. And violence and places in outside community is not the right answer as an the outsider. So thank you so much.
Well said. Well said.
Yes, well said. Thank you. And with that, on that note, we want to thank you for being here today. And again, this is available on the YouTube page, CCD75 YouTube page, along with other safety meetings and other meetings. Thank you, everyone, for being here today. You have a good day. Thank you, Ms. Mary Mason Simpson.
Oh, wait, we gotta go.
We're leaving.
So you have
Thank you.